I thought the two boys next door were just another problem I didn't have the strength for. They rode their bikes too fast, cut the corner of my lawn like it meant nothing, and laughed the way 12-year-olds laugh when they know an adult can't catch them. I'd moved to Ashford Lane for quiet, for distance, for a life small enough that grief wouldn't keep finding new places to hide. So when the taller boy's tire carved a fresh line through my grass, and he glanced at my window as if daring me to react, I stepped onto my porch ready to start a war over boundaries. Then the quieter one turned his head. Behind his left ear was a small crescent-shaped scar, a mark I had seen once in a hospital room 12 years ago on a newborn I wasn't allowed to touch. My hands locked on the porch railing. The street went muffled like someone had wrapped the world in cloth. The boys argued over a bike chain, breathless and alive, and they had no idea the old man next door was staring at his own blood. I'm Martin Hale, 70 years old now, and for 12 years I had been looking for two children I never knew existed until they were already gone. 12 years ago, my daughter Lily got pregnant. I didn't know. My wife, Sandra, didn't know. Lily was 22, living across town, working at a dental office, insisting she was fine whenever Sandra asked if she was eating enough or sleeping enough. She wore loose sweaters and kept her purse pressed to her stomach like a shield. I thought she was hiding stress. I thought she was hiding regret. Sandra noticed more. Mothers always do. Lily stopped coming to Sunday dinners. She didn't drink coffee anymore. She avoided hugs. When Sandra asked gentle questions, Lily gave sharper answers. When I asked directly if she was in trouble, Lily looked at me with a strange calm and said, "No, I'm fine." 2 months later, Sandra collapsed in a grocery store aisle. A stroke. Sudden. Brutal. One moment she was teasing me about buying the wrong cereal, the next she was on the floor, eyes wide, trying to speak and failing. She survived, but the woman who came home from the hospital was half trapped inside her own body. Her right hand curled uselessly. Her words came back in pieces. At night she cried in her sleep like her mind was still trying to understand what had happened. Our life turned into rehab appointments, pill boxes, handrails installed in hallways, and me learning how to help my wife stand without making her feel ashamed. Lily visited twice in the first week. Then she stopped. When I called, she didn't answer. When she did, her voice sounded far away. "I can't," she said. "Your mother had a stroke," I told her. "This is when you show up." Silence. Then, small. "I'm sorry." She hung up. I told myself she was scared. I told myself she'd come around. I didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know she was building a secret large enough to crush us all. I found out on a rainy Tuesday in late October. A woman from social services called my house. "Mr. Hale," she said, "we need to confirm next of kin information for Lily Hale. She listed you as her father." My stomach tightened. What happened? There was a brief pause, the kind people take before delivering news that will change someone's life. "Your daughter delivered twins 2 days ago," she said. 2 boys. She signed voluntary relinquishment." For a second I didn't understand the words. Twins. Boys. Relinquishment. My mind tried to reject them as a mistake. "Surrendered," I said, voice raw. "Where are they?" "I can't discuss placement details," she replied. "I can note your interest, but—" "They're my family," I said. "I'm their grandfather. Their grandmother's recovering from a stroke. We are here. Why weren't we called?" "Relatives were not listed," she said, tone flattening. "The infants are already in temporary placement." Temporary placement. Like they were furniture. I drove to Lily's apartment without thinking. I pounded on her door until my knuckles split. When she finally opened it, she looked hollow, wearing an oversized hoodie that did nothing to hide how thin she'd become. On her counter, I saw a hospital bracelet tossed aside like trash. "You had babies," I said. Her eyes slid away. "They're gone." "Gone where?" "They're safe." "Safe from what?" I stepped inside. "From us?" She swallowed and didn't answer. "You didn't tell your mother," I said, voice rising. "She can barely walk. She cries at night because she can't say your name the way she wants to. And you were pregnant and you hid it from her?" Lily's face tightened. "I couldn't." "Why?" "Because if I told you, you would have tried to take them." "Yes," I said, "of course I would have. They're my family." "That's exactly why," she whispered, like it was an accusation. I stared at her, struggling to recognize my own child. "Tell me where they are," I said, forcing my voice low. "Tell me what you signed. I can fix this." "You can't," she replied. "It's done." I went home and told Sandra. There is no gentle way to tell a grandmother she has grandchildren she will never hold. Sandra cried the way people cry when grief pulls a sound out of them that doesn't feel human. She tried to speak Lily's name, but the stroke tangled the syllables. She looked at me with one good hand gripping my wrist like she could anchor herself there. "I'll find them," I promised her. I believed it. I was wrong. For months I fought the system. Phone calls, letters, meetings, lawyers. I learned new words that tasted like metal. Sealed adoption, confidentiality statutes, closed records. Every time I pushed, the door shut harder. Every time I begged, someone reminded me of rules written for stability, not for truth. An attorney told me bluntly, if the adoption process is moving, intervention is very difficult. The courts prioritize permanence. If your daughter didn't list relatives, you're already behind. Behind. As if love were a race, and I'd started too late. Sandra asked about the boys every day. "Names?" she'd whisper, struggling. "We don't know," I would say. Her face would fold inward, grief carving new lines into her. I went to Lily again. She didn't open the door. I heard her moving inside, heard her breathing, and she still wouldn't face me. Through the door I said, "Your mother is getting worse. If you have any heart left, at least tell her their names." Lily's voice came back flat and muffled. "They don't have names from me." That sentence cut cleaner than any insult. Sandra died the following spring. Not in a way anyone could legally blame on Lily, but I watched my wife dim in slow motion, as if the unanswered questions were eating the light out of her. She lived long enough to know the twins existed. She didn't live long enough to see their faces. Lily didn't come to the funeral. I waited for her anyway, like a fool, like a father who can't stop hoping. I watched the cemetery gate until the service ended and the last person left. My daughter never showed. After Sandra was buried, I went home and wrote Lily a letter. Not dramatic, not cruel, just true. I told her she had shattered her mother. I told her she had erased 2 children from our family and watched us bleed. I told her I loved her because she was my child, but I couldn't stay in her life while carrying what she'd done. Then I cut ties, blocked her number, stopped chasing her. Cutting ties doesn't feel clean. It feels like living with an open wound and pretending you don't smell the blood. For the next 10 years I lived alone and kept trying, quietly, to find the boys. Once a year around late October, I'd call agencies, ask attorneys, file polite requests that came back stamped with the same answer. Sealed. Finalized. No information. One person told me, "They're in a good home." I wanted to ask, are they together? Are they safe? Do they know they were searched for? But the answer was always the same. We can't discuss that. Eventually I sold the house Sandra and I had shared and moved somewhere new, somewhere quiet enough to make my grief smaller. That's how I landed on Ashford Lane. 2 years of silence. Then a moving truck arrived next door. A couple introduced themselves, David and Aaron. Polite, cautious, the way people are when they're trying to start a life in a new place. Behind them, 2 boys leapt out of the truck like they'd been launched. 12 years old. One taller, sharper, fearless. One quieter, watchful. Aaron said, "And these are our sons, Noah and Eli." Our sons. The word sat in my chest like a stone. Not foster. Not temporary. Sons. I told myself not to be foolish. Boys are boys. Streets are full of boys. I had no right to attach hope to strangers just because the calendar matched my pain. But my eyes kept returning to them. At first they were just noise, bike tires on pavement, a basketball thumping, shouts in the backyard. Then came conflict, because conflict is what happens when an old man has too much history and too little patience. David mentioned a property line. I took it personally. The boys cut across my lawn. I snapped at them. Aaron looked at me one evening and asked, "Are you lonely, Martin?" It humiliated me more than I wanted to admit. Then the scar showed itself behind Eli's ear, and the world tilted. After that, every small detail felt loud. Their age, their faces, the way Noah leaned forward when he ran, the same forward drive my father had, the way Eli watched people carefully before speaking, like he'd learned to read rooms early. But feelings aren't proof. Hope isn't evidence. I'd learned that the hard way. I called an attorney. She listened, then said, "If your suspicion is right, the only clear path is DNA. But you can't force that without a basis. The first step is trust." Trust. A word I'd ignored for too long, because I'd spent years trying to force the world to undo what was done. So I stopped reacting like an enemy. I started acting like a neighbor. When they rode bikes, I didn't bark at them from my porch. When the ball bounced into my yard, I tossed it back instead of glaring. Then the street tested us. One evening Noah flew down the sidewalk too fast, and a car turned onto Ashford at the wrong moment. Tires screeched. Noah swerved, hit the curb, and went down hard. I ran without thinking, dropped to my knees beside him, blood on the pavement, Noah gasping, frightened, trying to be tough and failing. "Don't move," I told him, steady. "Where does it hurt? Did you hit your head?" Aaron came out screaming his name. David followed, face drained of color. Paramedics arrived, fitted a collar, asked questions. Noah kept looking at me between tears like he couldn't understand why I was there. He went to the hospital with a concussion that turned out not to be serious. But that night Eli stood on my porch while his parents were gone, staring at the street like it had tried to swallow his brother. "My mom says you're angry," he said quietly. "I am," I admitted. "Why?" he asked, so plain it hurt. "Because I lost people," I said. "Because some losses are complicated." Eli sat there a long time, then spoke again, hesitant. "We're adopted." The word hit my ribs. "Mom says our birth mom couldn't take care of us," he continued, casual in tone but not in his eyes. "She didn't name family." My throat tightened. He didn't see it. Or he did, and didn't understand. "Do you think it's weird not knowing where you came from?" he asked. I kept my voice controlled. "I think it's normal to wonder." He nodded, staring at his hands. "Sometimes I look in the mirror and try to imagine someone else with the same eyes." I wanted to say, "I don't have to imagine." Instead I said, "If you ever want to talk, you can." From that point the boys drifted toward me like they were testing the warmth of a fire they'd been told not to touch. Eli asked for help with a school project about family history. Noah needed tools for a bike repair. Erin accepted a helmet I brought over after the accident, and she thanked me in a voice that sounded like real relief. David remained cautious, but he stopped looking at me like I was a threat. Then, one evening, they invited me for dinner. It was ordinary. Roasted chicken, Noah arguing, Eli quiet, Erin moving around the kitchen like she'd done it 1,000 times. A family's noise filled the room, and I felt like I was watching a life that should have been mine. During the meal, Erin mentioned adoption, not making it dramatic, just stating facts. "We were told their birth mother was young," she said. "No support. She didn't name relatives." My fork paused. David noticed. "Martin?" I set the fork down carefully. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might crack bone. "I need to tell you something," I said. 4 faces turned toward me. 12 years ago my daughter gave birth to twin boys," I began. She surrendered them without telling my wife and me. We found out after. We tried to locate them. We failed. The adoption went through. Aaron went still. David's posture tightened. Eli frowned, confused. Noah's eyes narrowed, wary. I forced myself onward. I believe you two are those boys. Silence. Noah's voice came sharp with fear hidden inside anger. So you're saying you're our grandfather? Yes, I said. David's tone hardened. That's a serious claim. I know, I replied. That's why I didn't say anything until I had to. I'm not here to take them away. I've watched you love them. They are your sons. I'm asking for proof and, if I'm right, a chance to know them. Erin's eyes filled, but she stayed steady. David stared at me like he was weighing every risk. Finally, he said the only reasonable thing. We need proof. We did a DNA test the next week, handled carefully, explained to the boys as a way to answer questions, not as a way to change who they belonged to. I didn't sleep. When my attorney called, her voice was calm, almost gentle. It's a match, she said. You are their biological grandfather. My knees went weak. I sat down on my kitchen floor like my body had forgotten how to hold itself upright. I went outside afterward and stared at the fence line I'd once been ready to fight over, thinking of Sandra, thinking of how she would have pressed her hand to her mouth and cried, not out of sadness this time, but out of relief so sharp it would have hurt. We sat together in David and Erin's living room to tell the boys. Erin held the paper. David sat forward, protective but quiet. Eli looked pale. Noah's jaw was locked. Erin spoke softly. The test shows Martin is biologically related to you. He is your birth grandfather. Noah stared at me. So, our birth mom is your daughter? Yes, I said. Eli's voice trembled. Why did she do it? I didn't lie. I didn't pretend I had neat answers. I asked her, I said. She wouldn't tell me everything. What I know is this. Your grandmother would have loved you. She died without meeting you. That's something I will carry for the rest of my life. Eli's eyes filled. Noah looked away. Noah's voice came rough. Where is she now? I took a breath. I cut ties with her when I found out what she did. I haven't spoken to her in years. Noah swallowed. Did she ever ask about us? The question burned. No, I said quietly. Not to me. Eli stared at the DNA report, then at me. Do you have pictures of your wife? Yes, I said, if you want them. He nodded once. Noah's eyes flicked to Erin and David, then back to me. Are you going to leave too? The question gutted me. No, I said, voice steady by force. Not if you don't want me to. I can't change what happened, but I can be here now. Noah didn't answer, but he didn't walk away either. That's how it began. Not with a dramatic reunion, but with a slow, careful stitching of torn fabric. Some days Noah was distant and sharp, as if anger was the only tool he trusted. Other days, he asked me to show him how to fix things, and he watched my hands like he was trying to memorize something. Eli asked questions like a person building a map. Dates, timelines, what I'd tried, what doors had closed and why. He wanted the story to be understandable so it would hurt less. David and Erin navigated it with a grace I will always respect. They never treated me like a threat. They reminded the boys, again and again, that love isn't erased by biology, and biology isn't meaningless either. I brought over an old photo album, Sandra's smile, Lily as a child, my father stiff in an old suit, the garden Sandra loved. Eli traced Sandra's face gently, as if touching the paper could summon her. She looks kind, he whispered. She was, I said, voice thick. Noah stared at a picture of Lily at 16, scowling at the camera like she was offended by being seen. After a long silence, he said, reluctant, "She looks like me." "Yes," I answered. "She does." His jaw tightened. "I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to decide yet," I told him. "You're allowed to feel what you feel." Late summer brought another piece of truth. Eli came to my door holding a folded sheet of paper, edges worn like he'd opened it too many times already. "I found something," he said. It was a copy of a note from the adoption file, one of the few things the agency would release because it was non-identifying. Erin had requested what she could, trying to give the boys information without tearing them apart. The handwriting was Lily's. I recognized it instantly. The note was short, apologetic. It asked that the boys be kept together. It said she wasn't doing it because she didn't love them, but because she feared she would ruin them. It said she came from a family that loved hard and held tight, and she couldn't breathe inside that kind of love. It ended with, "Please tell them they were wanted, even if I couldn't keep them." My vision blurred. Eli watched my face. Was she telling the truth? I folded the letter carefully. "I think she was telling her truth," I said. "But that doesn't undo what it cost." Eli nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "She thought she would ruin us," he whispered. "But she ruined other people instead." He stepped forward and hugged me. Not a child's desperate clutch, but a deliberate embrace, careful and real. I held him gently, feeling the solid warmth of him, the weight of a life that had been next door while I was still searching empty rooms in my mind. Noah came over later, silent, sitting on my porch steps like he didn't know where else to put himself. "If she shows up," he said, voice low, "do we have to see her?" "No," I replied immediately. "You decide. No one forces you." He nodded once, as if that answer gave him something he could stand on. A few weeks later, Lily showed up anyway. I opened my front door and there she stood, older, thinner, eyes tired in a way that wasn't only age. Her gaze flicked past me toward the neighbor's house like she could feel them there. "I heard," she whispered. "How?" I asked. "A friend," she said. "Word travels." I didn't step aside. "You don't get to just walk in." Lily's lips trembled. "Dad, please." I felt old anger rise, the kind that had kept me alive for years. But I also heard laughter next door, the boys arguing over a football, alive and loud. That sound mattered more than my anger. "This is about them," I said. "Not you and me." She nodded quickly. "I know." "Do you understand they don't owe you anything?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered, tears spilling. I studied her face. "They know the truth. They know who you are. And they get to decide what they want, not you." Lily swallowed hard. "Can I at least see them? From far away?" I hesitated, then made a choice that felt like holding a line in a storm. "You can stand on my porch," I said. "You do not cross the yard. You do not approach them, not unless they ask." She nodded, broken and grateful at the same time. We stood on the porch while Noah and Eli played in their driveway. Eli caught the football and laughed, head thrown back. Noah tackled him lightly, both of them tumbling onto the grass and shouting. Lily covered her mouth with her hand and cried without sound. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I didn't comfort her. I didn't shove her away either. I just stood there, because the boys' peace mattered more than my need to punish anyone. After a while, Lily turned toward me. "Are you happy?" I thought of Sandra dying without meeting them, of my years of searching, of the scar behind Eli's ear, of Noah's question, "Are you going to leave too?" "I'm grateful," I said, "that they're alive, that they're loved, that I found them before I died." Lily nodded slowly, as if she understood gratitude was not forgiveness. Before she left, she said, "If they ever want answers, I'll explain." I didn't promise her anything. I just said, go. That evening, Eli came over and sat on my porch. Was she here? He asked. Yes, I said. His face tightened. What did she want? To see you from a distance, I answered. I didn't let her near. Eli nodded, jaw clenched, then exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. Okay. Later Noah came too, standing in my yard with his hands in his pockets. Did she cry? He asked. Yes. He nodded once. Good. I didn't scold him. He was 12. He was trying to build justice from pain. Time moved. Healing didn't happen in a straight line, but it happened. David and I fixed the fence together one Saturday, measuring carefully, both of us quietly embarrassed by how close we'd come to turning a line in the dirt into a permanent divide. Aaron invited me over more often. The boys drifted in and out of my house like it was becoming normal. Eli tested the word grandpa the way a person tests a new language. Sometimes he said it, sometimes he didn't. But the first time he said it without hesitation. My throat closed and I had to look away so he wouldn't see the water in my eyes. Noah resisted longer. He called me Martin when he was angry, like distance could protect him from hope. Then one evening he stepped into my garage while I was repairing a cabinet hinge. He stood there quietly until I looked up. His voice came out rough and quick, like he was ripping off a bandage. Hey, Grandpa, do you know how to change a tire? The word hung in the air, fragile and heavy. I set down my tools carefully because my hands were shaking. Yes, I said. I do. Noah nodded once, acting like it was no big deal. But when he turned away, his shoulders straightened, as if the word had placed something solid inside him. That's what this story is. Not revenge, not punishment. Not a man triumphing over his enemies. It's a grandfather who thought he'd lost everything, discovering that life had hidden two beating hearts right next door. It's learning you can cut ties with the child who betrayed you and still have room to love the children she left behind. It's accepting that some wounds never close completely, but they can stop bleeding. Some nights I sit on my porch and listen to Noah and Eli laugh through open windows. And I let myself imagine Sandra sitting beside me, her good hand in mine, smiling the quiet smile she used to wear when she believed something might finally be all right. Because for the first time in 12 years, I'm not chasing ghosts, I'm watching my grandsons grow up.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales like this, hit subscribe.